the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. We've all heard of it, but tonight is the 6 degrees of Scott Chierepko. The year was 1987. I just enlisted in the Navy, and a great friend of mine from Newburyport, Massachusetts, that I grew up with, said, "You know what, Scott? My older brother, Steve, is in the Navy. He's been in for about 8 years now. And when he comes home on leave, I'm going to introduce you to him. He's going to have some great stories, give some good feedback, boot camp and all that." I said, "All right, great." Well, I never saw Steve until 14 years later. I'm in Rota, Spain, at a Navy base with my SEAL platoon. And I'd get an email every day that typically said, "From weather@rota.navy.mil." It was a weather report that we'd receive every day for training and so forth. But this day, it said, "From schetsis@weather.rota.navy.mil." And I said, "There's no way." So I replied back to the weatherman, and I said, "Hey, Senior Chief, this is Lieutenant Scott Chierepko. By any chance, are you from Newburyport, Massachusetts, and do you have a younger brother named Alex?" 3 minutes later, you have mail. "Hey, Scott, meet me at the bowling alley at noon. Lunch is on me." I finally met Steve, and it made that deployment great because he and his wife had lived there for 2 years already. The year was 1999. I'm in Okinawa, Japan, with the West Coast SEAL team. We've been there before, it's before 9/11. We had been in Okinawa doing jobs all over, going to different countries, training foreigners, doing our own exercise training, and it's time to leave. So we have to pack up all of our stuff in these big 8-foot by 8-foot pallets, get them ready at the airport. So we're just living out of a knapsack in the barracks with nothing else going on. So I'm bored. And I said, "You know what? I'm going to head down to the Post Exchange," which is really just a shopping mall at Okinawa, Kadena Air Force Base. So I walk through a door. It's in the mini mart. So you can just imagine walking and having all these aisles perpendicular to you with soda, chips, whatever, before you enter the big mall. And I'm walking, and out of the corner of my eye, I see a gentleman with a Red Sox hat on. And I am so bored, getting ready to fly out of this country and go home, that I say, "You know what? I'm going to turn around and make a friend," because I'm from the Boston area. I walk back that same aisle, walk down, and I look at this guy, and he looks at me, and he goes, "Scott?" And I said, "Dave? What the blank are you doing in Japan?" And I said, "Dave, what the blank are you doing in Japan?" Turns out he was in the Army station there, and needless to say, we had a liquid lunch, and I almost missed my flight the next day. The year was 2001. It was our 9/11 deployment. And we're deployed once again to Rota, Spain, with the mini subs, as some of you heard me talking about in my last presentation. And it was over the holidays. Our platoon had no spouses with us because we're on a combat deployment. But the unit, Naval Special Warfare Unit 10, which used to be in Rota, Spain, was manned by about a dozen SEALs and maybe 20 support people. So they were there with their families. 3-year tours typically. Well, it was Christmas time. So the leadership said to me, I was the platoon commander, "Hey, Scott, you should invite your crew, or your platoon, to the Master Chief's house. He's having a Christmas party for the unit, and you guys are all alone." Well, of course, if it's a party, we're coming. So they had a keg of beer on the front lawn, fire pit going, barbecue, and it was the evening. We're drinking beers, having a good time. All their spouses were there. And then the Command Master Chief, Brian, is with his wife. And his wife says, "Hey, Scott, we've never really formally met. Where are you from?" I said, "Well, I'm from a little fishing town in Massachusetts called Newburyport." And Brian overhears me and he says, "Scott, did you just say Newburyport?" "Yeah, Newburyport, Massachusetts." Now, I knew when Brian went through SEAL training, it was in the early 80s, and he said the best man for my wedding is from Newburyport, Massachusetts. So being quick on my feet and having a few cocktails in me, I said to him, "Really? Is it Terry Welch?" He freaked out. Some background, in Newburyport, there's actually 4 of us that are Navy SEALs. Jack, who went through training in 1957, his son Tim, who's in my era, we're in high school together, and then Tim's older brother Terry, who didn't make it through, but he went through in the early 80s. So now Brian is freaked out going, "How did you know who my best man was?" I said, "Well, you want to talk to him?" He's now got pancake eyes. I pull out my cell phone. I call the Welch family in Newburyport. "Yes, Mrs. Welch, this is Scott. Yes, deployment's going good. But can I get Terry's phone number up in New Hampshire?" I call it. Terry, with his deep New England, northern New Hampshire voice, goes, "Scotty, you blank. How's deployment going? You killing people over there?" I'm like, "Listen, Terry, I'd love to talk, but I'm going to pass the phone to somebody." Brian is looking at me with the biggest eyes. I pass the phone to Brian, and he's speechless. He walks away into the darkness. 40 minutes later, Brian comes back with a tear in his eye, hands me the dead phone, and says, "Scott, you just changed my life. I've been looking for that man for 27 years, and you just solved it." Thank you very much, everyone.